Howdy, and thank you for joining us for Yates American B244. In this episode, we're going to go through the moderately painful process of removing this motor spindle and cutter head from the machine. This spindle is over 5 feet long. One of the things I want to do on this B244 is test the motor, but I want to service the bearings because the bearings are really noisy. But to service the bearings, I need to remove the cutter head. But to remove the cutter head, I need to remove this rotor. So I've got my puller installed on here. It's the same puller grips that I used on the J180. And I've got these tension rods wound up pretty darn tight, and this has been on here for 2 days now. Time for our periodic tightening of the thumb screws. And we'll give it a few jolts with the hammer. Well, my puller's been on here for 12 days now. The one band that I had on there came apart the other day, so I've got 2 bands on there now. I'm 18 days into having this puller on, and one of my band clamps restraining those legs popped off again. So I'm going to make a new, heavier band clamp that's welded up and got set screws to hold things in place. Okay, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but I think it'll keep those legs from creeping outward. Well, I'm really sorry I did not get this on film, but I got this band on here, and I was really tightening up these tension bolts using a cheater bar, and the thing finally just popped. I mean, it totally popped and almost jumped off the machine. So I've got the rotor off now, finally. And there's the rotor. I thought I'd go ahead and set up a dial indicator and check the spindle run out. That's pretty darn good. So I bought a special wrench called a set screw wrench to work on the give screws on this cutter head because they're all frozen and rusted. So this set screw wrench accepts the full head of the give screws. I did have to modify the wrench. I ground down the faces so that it would fit into the slot on the cutter head. These give screws are tight enough I need a cheater bar to get them dispersed a little bit. And I'm going to incrementally loosen them just like I would if I was changing a knife in the cutter head. I'm going to loosen just this last give, and then I'll go to the other end and loosen that give just a little bit, and then I'll work inwards until all the screws are loosened about the same amount, and then work through them again until everything's loose enough to work by hand. I've been through about 3 rounds of loosening all these give screws, and so I should be able to remove the knives now. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but that knife has been ground way back. I won't be able to use that knife anymore. I'll have to get new ones. Well, here are all the knife gibs, and then here are the cutter head slots I'm going to guess that this one is the one that was facing up during all the rain, because the knife height adjustment screw is like completely rusted. So that'll require a lot of cleaning up. I'm going to try to remove this motor base independent of the spindle, but that motor base is supporting the cutter head spindle, so I'll need to support the cutter head while I'm removing that motor bell. This alignment pin's already loose. This pin has threads all stripped out where it counts, and they're not in very good shape either. There we go. I was not able to get this motor bell to come off just with a dead blow hammer. I was hoping it would be a slip fit onto that bearing down in there, but it's not. So I'm going to rig up this puller and see if it'll come off. With the motor bell safely off, I can start working on removing the bearing. Mud daubers, they get everywhere. I think I'll just work on the bearings the way it sits. It's on that cradle there, it's pretty stable. I'll remove bearing housing on this end. I'm having a little trouble getting this housing off, so I've threaded some bolts on opposite corners from the back side, and then I'll clamp a bar across here and use those to push the housing off. Wow, it's really rusty down in there. I'm going to pull these bearings off either to replace them or refurbish them. Okay, well, things aren't going so great pulling off this bearing. This plate was drooping, and I had this tension screw tightened up really tight. I was afraid things were going to break. So I've made a disc to support all this and keep it centered. And I'm going to try tightening up these 3/8 inch rods, kind of like I did for doing the stator. I said stator just a little bit ago, I meant rotor. Well, I've been cranking on these 3/8 inch bolts for a couple of minutes now, and it is moving. So that's the cutter head bearing, and it'll probably be very expensive to replace. And here's the sleeve that carries the rings for the chip breaker and the pressure bar. Let's see how it goes with the drivetrain bearing. This one's actually coming off smooth enough that I can use the center bolt. I'm always curious how much this stuff weighs. Almost 100 pounds.